There comes a moment when the soul grows tired of rehearsing the same emotional scenes, of returning to the same familiar pain disguised as comfort. In that silence between what we want and what we tolerate, a decision is born. A clean, sacred, no more. Cutting toxic patterns is not an act of rebellion against life. It is a declaration of alignment with it. Each thought, habit, and relationship carries a frequency, and for years you may have unconsciously vibrated in tune with scarcity, guilt, or survival. Yet manifestation is not about asking, it is about matching. You cannot receive abundance while your energy still kneels to what drains you. When you say enough, the universe doesn't punish your boundaries. It celebrates them. That moment of rupture, painful as it may feel, signals coherence, a merging between what your soul knows and what your body finally dares to live. Neurobiology calls it pattern interruption. Spirituality calls it awakening. The mind begins to unclench. The heart starts broadcasting a clearer tone, and your external world begins to shift accordingly. The same way static blocks a radio signal, old energetic loops distort the guidance constantly streaming toward you. Once you quiet the noise of outdated attachments, life becomes strangely precise. You notice synchronicities where before there was chaos, timing where before there was frustration. The truth is simple yet radical. Cutting is not losing, it is calibrating. And when you calibrate, manifestation ceases to be a struggle and becomes the natural language of your expanded self. There is a strange loyalty we develop toward what hurts us. It is as if some quiet corner of the mind believes that suffering equals safety, that discomfort is proof of life. This illusion forms the backbone of every toxic pattern. We stay where we bleed because the wound has become a compass. It points us toward what is known. From a neuroscientific perspective, the brain does not crave joy. It craves predictability. Familiar pain, even when unbearable, offers the nervous system the comfort of recognition. Every repeated argument, every emotional withdrawal, every self-sabotaging decision becomes a rehearsal of chemical familiarity, dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline, a cocktail the body associates with home. The first sign of awakening is not peace, it is resistance. When you begin to disrupt a toxic pattern, your body interprets it as danger. The pulse quickens, intrusive thoughts rise, and an ancient voice whispers that you are losing something vital. You are not. You are merely starving an addiction to repetition. That trembling, that uncertainty, is the evidence that energy is being reclaimed from loops that no longer serve your evolution. Spiritually, this phase mirrors the dark night of the soul, a liminal state where identity disintegrates so that essence can take form. Breaking away from familiar pain requires a dialogue between your biology and your belief. The biology says, stay with what is known. The belief insists, you deserve something more. It is in that conversation that consciousness expands. When the mind begins to witness its own mechanisms without judgment, a gap appears between impulse and action. Inside that gap, freedom blooms. The decision to cut a pattern is not made once. It is remade daily through micro-choices that realign your frequency with integrity rather than nostalgia. Energy follows focus. Each time you withdraw attention from an old narrative, you redirect electrical current toward new neural pathways. The brain, remarkably plastic, begins to prune synapses associated with the toxic loop and strengthen those connected to the new identity. From the quantum view, this is the same as collapsing one probability wave and expanding another. Manifestation operates through coherence, the alignment of thought, emotion, and action. When coherence increases, energy organizes, life responds. Still, there is grief in release. The mind mourns what it built, even if what it built was a cage. Cutting a pattern means dismantling the scaffolding that supported your former self. It means confronting the space that remains once the noise subsides. That silence can feel unbearable because it mirrors your potential unfiltered. Yet that very void is sacred. It is the womb of manifestation. Within it, new frequencies find room to resonate. Many people mistake endurance for strength. They endure relationships that drain, jobs that diminish, routines that suffocate, all under the noble banner of patience. But endurance without evolution is simply stagnation in disguise. Real strength is discernment, the courage to look at something familiar and say, this no longer represents who I am becoming. That sentence carries power because it reclaims authorship. When you define your boundaries, you define your vibration, and vibration determines reality. There is also the question of timing. The universe mirrors your internal state. It will not deliver the next chapter while you are still clinging to the last paragraph. Manifestation accelerates only when there is space for it to land. Think of your energetic field as an ecosystem. If it is cluttered with old emotional debris, new seeds cannot take root. The process of cutting patterns is the clearing of the soil. It may feel like loss, but in truth it is preparation. The absence you feel is not emptiness, it is readiness. In moments of doubt, remember this: healing does not erase the past, it reorganizes it. Every pattern you release becomes wisdom encoded in your electromagnetic field. That wisdom refines your intuition, sharpening your ability to recognize signals from the universe that were previously drowned out by static. Suddenly, you start noticing uncanny alignments, meaningful coincidences, opportunities that seem to find you. These are not random, they are confirmations that your field is recalibrating. When you stop leaking energy into loops of pain, reality becomes precise, almost tender in its responsiveness. Cutting toxic patterns, then, is not a moral exercise. It is a technical one. It is about circuitry, rewiring both neural and energetic channels so that your intention can travel unimpeded. Each act of self-respect strengthens your signal. Each boundary declared cleanses your transmission. The mind, body, and field begin to hum in the same key, producing a resonance that calls to experiences matching its frequency. That is the mechanics of manifestation in motion. Order replacing chaos, signal overriding noise, love guiding the process. By the time you look back, you will realize that every no you uttered was an initiation. The universe was never withholding. It was waiting for your coherence. Manifestation does not require more effort. It requires less distortion. And cutting toxic patterns is the most direct way to silence distortion at its source. When you finally stop feeding what weakens you, you start magnetizing what mirrors your true vibration. In that alignment, everything that once felt impossible begins to unfold with startling simplicity. Every transformation begins invisibly, long before the world witnesses its evidence. Beneath the surface of every conscious decision lies an architecture of energy, thought, and emotion working in concert or in conflict. When this architecture is misaligned, when the heart desires expansion but the mind remains addicted to control, the act of manifestation becomes laborious. The signal you send to the universe fractures into contradictory frequencies, and the outcomes mirror that internal discord. Realignment, therefore, is not about forcing life to obey your will, but about allowing coherence to emerge between your biology, your beliefs, and your behavior. The human system thrives on order, not rigidity, but harmony. The brain and the heart communicate through electromagnetic dialogue, producing measurable patterns that either amplify or distort your capacity to perceive universal guidance. This is why manifestation begins not with a vision board, but with a nervous system at peace. When the heart rhythm stabilizes into coherence, the brain's neural oscillations synchronize, creating an internal resonance field. Within that field, intuition sharpens. What once appeared as coincidence begins to feel like choreography. The universe is not sending new signs. It is that you have finally tuned your instrument to hear them. However, alignment is rarely comfortable. It demands the dismantling of narratives that once justified your stagnation. It requires stepping beyond the biochemical comfort of stress and reconditioning the body to trust calmness. Many equate peace with boredom because they have lived for too long inside the drama of survival. But peace is not the absence of movement. It is the precision of movement guided by clarity. It is the point at which your energy stops scattering across timelines of regret and anxiety and begins to flow entirely into the present where creation occurs. The process of recalibration unfolds in layers. The first is awareness, the raw recognition of incoherence. You notice how often your words contradict your energy, how frequently your intentions wrestle against your habits. Awareness alone can be destabilizing because it exposes how much of your life has been maintained by momentum rather than purpose. The second layer is acceptance, the willingness to inhabit discomfort without fleeing back to old identities. Here the heart becomes both witness and teacher. Each breath through resistance sends new instructions to the body. It is safe to evolve. The third layer is embodiment, the point where thought ceases to be theory and becomes cellular truth. Only through embodiment does manifestation translate from vision to experience. Modern neuroscience supports this spiritual truth. When consistent emotional states accompany new intentions, the brain begins to reorganize its neural architecture. Dendrites grow, synapses fire in novel sequences, and dormant pathways awaken. This is not poetic metaphor, but measurable transformation. Spiritual alignment, then, is biological evolution in real time. The universe responds not to words, but to wavelengths, and the human body is the transmitter through which those wavelengths broadcast. When coherence deepens, manifestation accelerates, not because you are commanding reality, but because you have become compatible with it. This is where the paradox of surrender reveals its intelligence. True surrender is not passive resignation, it is the strategic release of interference. The moment you stop demanding outcomes through fear, you stop vibrating in scarcity. Energy once bound by control flows into creativity. Possibilities multiply. The path ahead seems to illuminate step by step, as if responding to your quiet readiness. In truth, it always did. Your noise simply overpowered the signal. Cutting toxic patterns clears that interference, creating space for the architecture of inner alignment to solidify. There is beauty in recognizing that alignment is not a final state, but a living rhythm. You will drift and return, contract and expand. Each drift teaches humility. Each return teaches mastery. The purpose of practice, whether meditation, reflection, or conscious action, is not perfection, but consistency. Every time you return to coherence, you refine the internal architecture a little more. Over time, the signal becomes unmistakable. The universe no longer needs to shout through chaos. It whispers through intuition, and you listen effortlessly. The proof of alignment is not in how loudly you manifest, but in how quietly you receive. When your inner system operates in harmony, external manifestations become side effects of equilibrium. Opportunities appear naturally because they are magnetized by your stable frequency. Relationships evolve, environments reorganize, synchronicities multiply. Life stops feeling like a series of battles and starts unfolding like a conversation. Fluid, intelligent, reciprocal. Ultimately, the architecture of inner alignment teaches that creation is less about effort and more about precision. You do not build your future by force, you allow it by frequency. Each decision to honor your boundary, each moment of genuine stillness, each breath that replaces reactivity with awareness, these are the blueprints of manifestation. As coherence deepens, the line between you and the universe begins to blur, and reality starts to behave as if it remembers who you truly are. There is a profound difference between letting go and giving up. To the untrained mind, both appear as surrender, but the energetic frequency beneath them could not be more distinct. Giving up is born from despair, a collapse of will under the weight of unmet expectations. Letting go, on the other hand, is a gesture of trust, a deliberate release of interference so that the natural rhythm of the universe can take its course. Detachment does not mean indifference. It is the art of loving without possession, of intending without tension, of believing without demanding. In this space, manifestation evolves from effort to resonance. Every toxic pattern is anchored by emotional attachment. The attachment can be to an outcome, a relationship, a belief, or even an identity. It is the energy of, "I need this to feel safe." This dependency forms cords of subtle energy connecting you to what drains rather than nourishes. Each time you ruminate, replay, or overanalyze, the cord strengthens, pulling your vibration into dissonance. Energetic detachment begins when you withdraw consent from that invisible contract. It is a recalibration of ownership. Your energy returns to you, and with it your capacity to manifest expands. Science mirrors this spiritual principle through the study of attention. Wherever your focus rests, neural circuits strengthen. Attention is both currency and command. When your attention fixates on what is absent or unresolved, you reinforce the neural imprint of lack. The universe, a mirror of consciousness, responds accordingly by amplifying that frequency. Detachment, therefore, is not avoidance. It is disciplined redirection. You are training your awareness to dwell in the vibration of sufficiency rather than scarcity. There is a quiet elegance in detachment. It refuses the drama of control and replaces it with observation. When you cease chasing outcomes, you begin noticing patterns. Life reveals its intelligence when you no longer insist on rewriting its script. The ego, addicted to certainty, interprets this as loss of agency. Yet, paradoxically, only in relinquishing control do you access genuine power. Power is not the ability to force reality into submission. It is the ability to remain aligned regardless of circumstance. The challenge lies in the transition. Between holding on and letting go exists a psychological withdrawal, a space where the old pattern collapses and the new one has yet to form. This is the void, the energetic zero point where identity dissolves before rebirth. Many retreat here because the mind mistakes emptiness for danger. But in truth, this is where the field resets. It is within this stillness that new alignments begin to code themselves into your electromagnetic field. Quantum physics describes a similar phenomenon. When observation ceases, particles return to potential. In that same silence, your life reorganizes itself at the level of possibility. Detachment is also physiological. Chronic attachment keeps the nervous system in a perpetual state of vigilance, flooding the body with stress hormones. This biochemical noise distorts intuition and clouds perception. As you practice emotional release, cortisol levels drop, heart coherence improves, and a subtle spaciousness returns to your awareness. It is within this physiological calm that you become receptive to universal guidance. Synchronicities increase, not because the world changes, but because your internal static clears enough to perceive the symphony that was always playing. The spiritual masters across traditions have described this process in different languages, but with the same essence. In stillness, the divine becomes audible. When you detach from the obsessive noise of wanting, the whisper of alignment can finally reach you. Desire remains, but it transforms. It no longer burns with need, it glows with knowing. You move from seeking to allowing, from pursuit to partnership with the unseen intelligence that governs manifestation. Detachment also purifies your relationships. When you no longer project need onto others, love becomes cleaner, less conditional. You begin to attract connections that mirror your wholeness rather than your wounds. The people who once matched your chaos start drifting away, not out of punishment but out of resonance mismatch. It is one of the most misunderstood aspects of spiritual evolution. As your frequency changes, your social landscape rearranges. Some doors close, others appear from nowhere. Both are blessings. True detachment culminates in neutrality. Neutrality is not emotional numbness, it is stability in the midst of fluctuation. From neutrality, you can observe outcomes unfold without labeling them as gain or loss. Every event becomes information. Every delay becomes refinement. In this vibrational neutrality, manifestation accelerates because resistance vanishes. The field no longer wastes energy compensating for emotional turbulence. Instead, it channels all power into coherence, precision, and synchronicity. By the time you master energetic detachment, life feels less like a chase and more like a dance. You lead through intention, the universe follows through orchestration, and together you create a rhythm that feels effortless. Manifestation ceases to be about attracting and becomes about remembering. The things that arrive are not random rewards, but reflections of who you have always been beneath the layers of attachment. In that realization, you discover that the true act of creation is not holding tighter, but letting go completely. And in that letting go, everything finally comes home. Every transformation eventually reaches a point where awareness must become embodiment. Insight without integration remains only potential. The recalibration of conscious creation is the moment when wisdom descends from the mind into the body, when knowing transforms into being. After you have cut the patterns, realigned your energy, and released attachment, what remains is a quieter phase, one that feels almost ordinary. Yet it is here, in this subtle quiet, that manifestation turns into mastery. Recalibration is the process of stabilizing a new frequency within your energetic field. Think of it as tuning an instrument that has been out of pitch for years. The strings, the mind, emotions, habits, and beliefs must adjust to the new vibration you now embody. At first, this adjustment can feel disorienting. The old rhythm no longer fits, and the new one has not yet become second nature. During this phase, the universe seems to test your consistency, not by sending obstacles, but by echoing fragments of your past. These echoes are not regressions, they are reflections, inviting you to demonstrate that your new coherence is real. The human system thrives on patterns. Once a new energetic signature becomes familiar, it begins to broadcast stability into the quantum field. From this stability, external conditions reorganize with remarkable speed. You may notice serendipitous meetings, opportunities that align effortlessly, or the sudden dissolving of obstacles that once felt immovable. These are not miracles in the mystical sense, they are the physics of coherence at work. The field always mirrors order, and your emotional consistency is its language. To maintain recalibration, attention must become sacred. Attention is the steering wheel of creation. Each moment you choose where to place it, you choose which version of reality to sustain. Distraction, worry, and self-doubt are subtle leaks in your frequency, dissipating the power of your signal. When you observe your thoughts without indulgence and return to the present moment, you are not practicing discipline for its own sake. You are preserving the geometry of manifestation. Precision in thought produces precision in reality. Another key element in recalibration is emotional hygiene. Many speak about high vibration as if it were a mood to maintain, but it is truly a state of congruence between thought and feeling. If you speak abundance but carry resentment, your frequency divides. The goal is not constant joy, but coherence, honest alignment between inner truth and outer expression. This means acknowledging pain when it arises without letting it define your identity. Energy moves through acknowledgement. It stagnates in denial. Recalibration demands emotional transparency. The environment also plays a decisive role. Everything you touch, every sound you hear, every person you allow, close contributes to your vibrational ecosystem. The process of manifestation accelerates when your surroundings reflect the frequency you wish to sustain. This is not superficial aestheticism, it is energetic architecture. The colors, objects, and sounds around you anchor your field in subtle ways. A cluttered environment speaks confusion to the subconscious. A curated one affirms clarity. Every detail is a message to your nervous system. This is who we are now. Physiologically, recalibration engages the body's electromagnetic intelligence. The heart emits the strongest field in the human system, and when it operates in coherence, it influences the brain's patterns of activity. The resulting feedback loop produces what researchers call psychophysiological harmony. This state allows the body to function as a unified instrument of perception, attuned to information beyond the five senses. Many describe it as intuition or flow. In truth, it is the body's natural capacity when freed from energetic distortion. Yet, this integration phase can feel deceptively calm. The absence of chaos may seem unfamiliar, almost uncomfortable, because the nervous system once equated turbulence with vitality. Here, patience becomes a spiritual technology. Instead of chasing intensity, you learn to appreciate subtlety, the quiet pulse of alignment that hums beneath the surface of ordinary moments. This is where manifestation matures from dramatic revelation into gentle precision. The extraordinary begins to express itself through the ordinary. Recalibration also invites humility. Manifestation is not conquest, it is communion. You are not bending the universe to your will, you are participating in its rhythm. Each manifestation is a dialogue, not a command. When outcomes diverge from expectation, the aligned mind asks not, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this teaching me about my vibration?" This shift in inquiry transforms disappointment into data, allowing rapid adjustment of frequency. In this way, life becomes interactive feedback from the field, guiding your evolution in real time. As coherence deepens, gratitude becomes spontaneous rather than performative. You no longer list blessings to attract more. You feel gratitude as a natural consequence of awareness. The smallest details, the breath, the silence, the sunlight, feel rich with significance. Gratitude, in this sense, is the emotional signature of alignment. It signals to the field that you have received the lesson, integrated the experience, and are ready for expansion. Eventually, recalibration culminates in stillness, a frequency of such refinement that effort disappears. Creation happens through intention, but intention no longer feels like striving. It feels like breathing. This is the effortless manifestation spoken of in ancient teachings. Action guided by alignment. Results born from resonance. The journey of cutting toxic patterns has brought you here, to this equilibrium between choice and surrender. You have learned that transformation is not a performance but a practice of remembrance. In the silence of this new alignment, you realize that the universe was never withholding your manifestations. It was waiting for you to stabilize your signal. Once coherence becomes your natural state, reality cannot help but respond in kind. Everything you seek begins seeking you, not as an external pursuit but as a magnetic inevitability. The recalibration of conscious creation is complete when your inner harmony becomes indistinguishable from the harmony of the cosmos itself. In the quiet after the storm of transformation, something miraculous happens. You begin to realize that the process was never about becoming someone new. It was about remembering who you have always been beneath the noise. Cutting toxic patterns, realigning your energy, and detaching from control are not isolated acts of change. They are the unfolding of remembrance. You were never broken, only covered by layers of outdated stories. When those layers fall away, what remains is clarity, coherence, and peace, the natural state of a consciousness in harmony with the universe. Every act of release has been an act of love. Every moment of resistance was your evolution stretching beyond its limits. The pain that once defined you now feels distant, almost educational, like an echo of a dream you no longer live in. The new rhythm of your life carries a different music, slower, deliberate, profoundly alive. You no longer chase alignment, you embody it. The mind that once overthought is now a quiet witness. The heart that once feared is now a compass tuned to truth. Manifestation flows not because you demand it, but because you have become a match to it. The signals of the universe no longer need to shout. They arrive as whispers, effortlessly recognized and effortlessly followed. When coherence becomes your home frequency, life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a conversation. You realize that manifestation is not about bending reality to your will, but partnering with it in mutual recognition. What you seek is not separate. It is already within the field of your awareness, waiting for your calm acknowledgement. The journey of cutting patterns has led you here, to this elegant truth. The universe was never testing you. It was teaching you the art of remembering your power through contrast. And now that you remember, the next chapter begins. Not with striving, but with serenity. If everything you've heard resonated deep within you, then ask yourself this: how much longer will you delay the life that's already calling your name? The shift you desire does not start tomorrow. It starts the moment you decide that your peace is worth protecting. You have always been the creator, the transmitter, and the receiver of your own frequency. Let this awareness guide your next step. Subscribe to the channel and become part of this space of awakening, where transformation meets understanding. And if you're ready to go deeper, continue with the next video appearing on your screen now, because your expansion deserves to continue.